everybody, welcome back to Technically Designed Home. Today is going to be part 3 of our 4-part series of what to do with different smart home sensors. Today I want to talk about what to do with smart plugs and smart bulbs. And all the products that I mentioned today are going to be linked down in the description below, so don't forget to check it out. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Smart bulbs and smart plugs are probably the most common smart home tech that people have. Naturally, that was where I got started as well. I started off with a Wemo Insight mini plug, and I used that to control a lamp, so I was able to turn it off from bed because I'm lazy and slightly scared of the dark. So it's no surprise that there is a plethora of these tech available on Amazon. And as I mentioned in my previous video, these ideas are not specific to any one system. So you can find plugs and lights that are compatible with all of the major systems. And if you choose not to have an assistant in your home, they can also be controlled by their manufacturer apps. Though integrating them across a smart home system allows you to do better automation, even with devices across multiple platforms, how I have it set up today. In my apartment, I have plugs and switches and lights, mostly from the IKEA Trodfer system. The reason for this is that they are compatible with all 3 of the major smart home assistants: Google, Amazon, I won't say her name, and HomeKit as well, which is very hard to find, especially at the price point that the IKEA products are at, the HomeKit compatibility that is. There are numerous types of plugs and lights that you can find online for cheap prices that are compatible with Google and or Amazon, but HomeKit is very hard to find at a reasonable price. That's why I chose to go with IKEA. For the price of one $35 hub, I am able to connect all of the lights and switches throughout my apartment and control them with any of my systems. I specifically have multiple on-off switches, which IKEA in 2019 improved their system and allows you to have 2 switches or control sensors in one room. This allows you to do controls like having one switch to turn on the lights, on and off the lights by your front door, and another one by the hallway when you're exiting the room, which is how I had this set up previously. Now that my apartment is smaller and there are less smart home devices in each room, I have now separated the switches so one controls the living room and one controls my office lights. As I showed in my apartment tour, which I'll link up here in the cards, or is it up here? I don't know, I'll link up here in the cards. I have one of the dimmer switches in my bedroom. These are super handy for lights that are dimmable. They can either be smart lights or they can be just standard dimmable lights depending on how you have your system set up. In my case, because I am using the IKEA system, I must have IKEA bulbs that are paired with the plug. But if you were able to change the outlet on your wall to a smart dimmable or even just a plain on-off switch that is smart and can be controlled by your smart home, you could use standard light bulbs in all of your light fixtures. I highly recommend this method for any room in your house that has multiple lights controlled by one switch, especially in like kitchens, bathrooms, etc. That way, instead of having to control multiple bulbs or trying to figure out how to pair and group multiple lights together so they operate like they would normally, you're continuing to use one switch. And this allows other members of your household who may not want to use a smart assistant or verbally call or use their phone to trigger lights when they're coming in and out of rooms, to continue to have a switch on the wall that's it's easy for them to use as the other ones, but allows you to continue to use the smart automation features of a smart home. Unfortunately, as a renter, I'm not able to switch out the plugs in my apartment or the outlets, so instead I use smart plugs and other controllers that are paired with the lights in my apartment. As I mentioned in the first video in this series, and the second one as well, The plugs and lights can be controlled based on automations from other sensors. So if you have a vibration sensor, a temperature sensor, maybe a door or open close sensor, you can use these to trigger devices to turn on and off based on what's happening in your environment. So for instance, I have an open close switch on my front door, and I use it to trigger my living room lights turning on when I arrive home. But if it's between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. when I should be sleeping and no one should be entering my apartment, I have it set to more of a security automation where it turns on all the lights in my apartment at full brightness, which would wake me up right away. I also mentioned a similar idea in the temperature sensor ideas, where you would use a temperature sensor to power on or off a fan or space heater, humidifier, or dehumidifier in a similar way. Within this case, with the fan or humidifier into a smart plug in the outlet on the wall. This way you don't have to have smart appliances or smart fans, but you're able to control it directly at the power source. I've also heard of people using smart plugs for appliances like their washer and dryer to notify them as the power consumption changes as a way to see if it's on or off for the cycles. But make sure you always check the rating of your smart plugs for the wattage that your appliances and voltage that your appliances are using, to make sure that you're not going to cause any sort of fire hazards by plugging in a device into this plug. That is also a risk with space heaters as well. Along those lines, I've heard of other people using a smart plug for small appliances like hair straighteners or hair curlers. If you're somebody that has a tendency to forget to turn them off, a smart plug is an easy way to do it. You can either set a routine where after an hour of use, it automatically turns off the power at the source, or if you leave home, all of the plugs that control those type of devices automatically power off as well. That way, you can never leave the house with them still on. So I hope you enjoyed this video talking about smart plugs and smart lights. I'm going to link down in the description below the products that I have in my apartment and that I highly, highly recommend. Subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you'll be notified when the next video in this series is posted next week. The last video I'm going to do is a group of random sensors that I have some and don't have some of throughout my apartment, which are an open close sensor, a tilt sensor, and water sensors. So tune in next week to learn about what you can do with those types of sensors in your smart home setup, compatible with Google, Amazon, and HomeKit automations. So I hope to see you then, and don't forget to like this video if you're excited to use smart plugs and smart lights in your home. I'll see you next week. Have a good one, guys.